Hello once again, everyone. Thanks for tuning into another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, we of course want to give a thanks to those who help us bring the show to you for free on whichever podcast platform you choose to listen. Thanks to our good friends at Smokin' Jay's Barbecue. And while this is not yet the shout-out segment, it's worth noting a very special shout-out here in the sponsor segment to Smokin' Jay's. Brock is celebrating his birthday as we record this, so happy birthday to Brock. Follow at Smokin_Jays, Jays, BBQ on Twitter and Instagram, and check out what they've got going on there in the Massillon, Ohio area. And also an update for you. It looks like we will be having Smokin' Jays at Hell on Earth at the end of the month. So excellent, exciting, fun news there, as we always enjoy them getting into the fold. And of course, thanks to the merger between Smart Mark Video and Independent Wrestling TV, watching AIW has never been easier. You go to smartmarkvideo.com and you can purchase any DVD, basically anything that's ever been recorded for the most part by the Smart Mark team, which is the majority of AIW shows in its entire history. Available at smartmarkvideo.com for purchase on DVD or MP4. And if you love streaming and just all sorts of content at your fingertips, then IWTV is for you. It's a $9.99 per month subscription. Use the code ABSOLUTE so they know that we sent you. And you can watch not only all sorts, an abundance of AIW content, but so many other independent wrestling promotions as well. Countless hours of independent wrestling over at IWTV. And, with that, we roll into this week's episode. As always, AIW owner John Thorne is here.
Doing some business. I'm multitasking,
which is fine. My name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts. And this week, John Thorne wisened up, did not send the podcast link in the group chat, so I don't believe that we'll have any special drop-ins this week as we get to talking and chatting about things. And while John handles more business, let's start with the shout-out segment. And the very first shout-out I'm going to give you is part of the business that John is handling right now, booking flights, because we've got a special guest. If you haven't seen it yet on the AIW social media, why aren't you following at AI Wrestling on everything on social media? But shout out to JEFF, JARRETT, Jeff Jarrett, coming back to Cleveland, coming back to AIW. He will be there at Hell on Earth, a very special meet and greet. It'll be fun and exciting to have him back in the fold here at AIW. We haven't seen him since Mount Carmel, of course. And so we will see him at the end of the month. And from one... go ahead, John Thorne.
Oh, I was just saying, I was just buying his flight, actually, right now.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. I mean, this came together... I've been working on it for a while, but it finally came together pretty quickly today, earlier this afternoon, so... Had to get the graphic and all that stuff ready and get the flight and then work out. He has somewhere to be on Saturday, so work out all that business stuff with the other promoter and get that all squared away. So yeah, Double J is coming to town. I was for those that attended my panel at the Great Lakes Geek Fest, which not many of you. I assure you did. But for those who did, I had said that I was hoping to find one last piece of the puzzle for Hell on Earth before I really started ironing out a card. And I really wanted a big meet and greet. I had been trying, several different things. And, nothing was coming together. I've kept in contact with old Double J throughout the years, and his podcast is extremely popular right now. And I just said, you know what, I'm gonna shoot Double J a text and see what happens. And he called me. We had a couple phone calls. I did try to get him to wrestle, but I don't think that's on the docket just yet, but I was twisting his arm a little bit, so maybe the bug is in his ear, so to speak, but I don't think he's going to pull the trigger on that in 4 weeks or whatever we are from hell on earth. But I think that this is the last piece of the puzzle as far as big attractions are concerned. We have a little bit of everything: Matt Cardona, Psycho Clown, PCO, and now Double J. I want this show to be big. I've been saying it for a long time, and the way things are going, it certainly is on its way. I hope this Double J announcement puts it over the top. And then, of course, the card, I think will certainly be very enticing. I've been working pretty hard on this show, so all premium ticketing and seating is sold out already, which is a great sign so far out.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. Shout out to you, the fans.
Yeah. 3 rows completely sold out. So we have general admission tickets available. I will say that we got a decent amount of chairs coming, so we will have more chairs beyond what the 3 rows are available, but those are going to be first come, first serve. So at this point, you have to assume your general admission ticket is a standing room only ticket. If you want to bring a camping chair or something, I mean, we're not gonna stop you if you bring your own chair. But you have to assume at this point the general admission ticket will be a standing room only ticket, because those, 100 or 200 extra chairs we have coming, I feel are going to go quickly. So I'm not promising a seat with a general admission ticket. I mean, I just think it's the safest way to go.
Yeah, it's a good bet to not make that promise. From one legend to the next, shout out to Mick Foley this week. So this Sunday, Mick Foley show at Hilarities. Yours truly gets to open up for him, do some jokes, and ahead of Mick Foley telling jokes and storytelling. So that'll be exciting. Go to hilarities.com. Still got tickets on sale, and they are going to do a meet and greet. I don't have the number for you, but that will be there. So that's very exciting.
I think it is on. It's on the Hilarities website.
Is it on the website now? Okay, it wasn't last time we had checked, but that was.
I think it was. I think it's a special ticket that you can purchase, from what I understand.
An additional ticket.
And Mick is also going to be at Time Capsule Toys this Friday in Girard, Ohio. Those prices are posted on the Time Capsule Toys social media accounts. I believe it is $40. Let me take a look real quick, because I know that they had been promoting that rather heavily here. So let me see.
Well, while you look that up, shout out to We Stanko on Twitter. Old Wesley, our follower. He follows AIW, follows me. He is from Canada, from British Columbia. He's listened to every single AIW podcast episode of The Card is Going to Change from Vancouver, BC. And he's listened to all of them, still listens every single time we release one. So, hey, Wesley, we appreciate you, man. Don't know that we're running any shows in Canada, but if you ever get here to the States.
Here we go. So I assume this is probably going to be on par with Hilarities. So this Friday at Time Capsule Toys from 6 to 9 p.m., 52 West Liberty Street, Girard, Ohio. Autographs are $40 apiece. A selfie is $40. And a combo is $60. So those are the prices for the Mick Foley meet and greet at Time Capsule Toys. I assume it will be similar pricing at Hilarities on Sunday. So two great opportunities to meet Mick Foley, and this is kind of worked out in our favor because Mick Foley was like the number one draft pick for that Hell on Earth appearance. You know what I mean? And I had talked to Mick, and now I'm glad that it didn't work out because he's doing all this stuff in the area. A few weeks beforehand, but I talked to Mick about 2 months ago, and he likes doing loops. He doesn't want to just do one off. And I said, I don't know what else to do. I just do wrestling shows, Mick, and there's not really anybody else that was around here that was probably going to jump in on that fee.
Yeah.
So, it didn't work out, but now he's got this whole loop going this weekend, so it worked out for us, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All's well that ends well. It works out well. Also, shout outs. I forgot to do this one. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think I have yet. Shout out to our fan Denise, White Oprah on Twitter. At White Oprah 23. John Thorne, you've seen these graphics, these really cool graphics that she makes.
I think you shouted her out a couple weeks ago.
Did I? Okay, I couldn't remember if I did or not, but she liked the tweet, and it was worth mentioning again because I think Eric Taylor shared his again recently and made me think of it. Like, man, they just really are. They're super cool. Big fan of those. So whatever, she gets a second shout out. Here's a fun one. Shout out to JFK Jr.
Oh, come on.
You see this?
I saw it. I don't know that we need to discuss it.
We don't need to discuss it, but I just wanted to shout him out. That's all I'm saying. Important shout out here. Shout out to two of our guys, though. Big shout out for well wishes to Mance Warner and Danhausen. Those guys both suffering.
Man, what awful luck though. Like,
yeah,
I just didn't even know what to say to these guys really, because they essentially become free agents, and then the first weekend, you know what I mean, they get these these crazy injuries. I don't know if Mance's has officially been put out there. I know Danhausen is a broken leg. Just awful timing,
Yeah.
But those guys are 100% guys that are going to bounce back, and they're going to be fine when the dust settles and on all this. They're guys that did it. They figured it out. They scratched and clawed, from the very bottom of, both of those guys really were just guys that were coming to AIW to show face, So, these guys have literally come from the bottom to being, major independent attractions. Guys like that, they don't forget how to do that. Right. So I have full confidence that, when they are healthy, they are gonna, they're gonna land somewhere, and if nothing else, land exactly where they are, with a ton of momentum on the independent circuit, and making a decent amount of money. It's they both have been doing very well. Throughout the even through the pandemic, they've both worked tons and tons of shows. Continued to stay hot and relevant when a lot of people did not. So, that is just a total bummer to see something like that, especially on this, week that was supposed to be kind of like a celebration, very exciting for both of those guys to kind of, play the free agent market. And, man, just so disappointing.
Yeah. Danhausen did mention and announce today, he went to the doctor, he does have to have surgery, and that's going to be happening this week at the end of this week.
He said he needs a rod put in his leg.
Yeah. And that's, today's modern science, it's not the same as, 10, 15 years ago. You hear about somebody getting a rod put in, and it's like, oh, they're never going to be the same, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not really the case today's day and age. There's so much more going on with that, and so much more evolved in terms of the medical science. So yeah, all the best to those guys for sure. So special shout out to them. I might that might be my shout outs. Oh, you know what, John Thorne? I gotta do it. I gotta say it because the picture's out there. The photo has hit the internet. Shout out to Arthur MacArthur. And that's all I can really say right now. Shout out to Arthur MacArthur.
Arthur Elite Wrestling.
Arthur Elite Wrestling. There'll be more as that story unfolds, but you've all
developing. Story developing.
It is a story developing.
Rapidly developing.
It's a developing shout out, but nonetheless, a shout out to Arthur MacArthur. Good for him.
Arthur Elite Wrestling. Look for the graphic.
That's what it stands for. Arthur Elite Wrestling. You know what, though? While we're sitting here, I will say, a shout out to Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. Did you see that match?
I did. It's very weird that wrestling is somewhat appointment viewing again as far as television wrestling. Mm-hmm. And on Friday night, I made sure that I was home and available at 10 p.m. so I could watch that match. Man, I really liked it. I think that is a perfect example of what makes wrestling great, and that it was just not clean enough to be great, if that makes sense. It was the styles clash really played well. Sorry, Justin Summers, it was a cough. The styles clash really played well. And that's what I love, there's something to be said about a great, smooth, technical wrestling match as well. But I love when those two different styles get in there and they're able to work well off of their strengths and their weaknesses. And I just thought that it was just such a great, you don't see stuff like that on television anymore, and I talked to Kingston, right afterwards, and I told him, I thought it was great, and I did. I thought it was just a great showcase, not only for him, but just the story and really just how they made this nothing kind of whatever match mean so much just off of a couple little talking points in a throwaway segment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bringing up, how he, doesn't work, how he's his own worst enemy, which, has been very heavily documented over the years. And, I just thought it was great, and a great showcase. And it's so weird because that is a match that you'd see on an independent that, would be like a cult classic match, but that's it. And it's crazy to see it in a sold out arena on national television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just interesting how things are changing rapidly as far as that goes. And I really like it.
Yeah. And I've talked to Eddie too. And, my biggest thing for him is when I watch that stuff and I look at it, and when you know someone so well, you just, when they're having a good time doing something that they love, like they're enjoying it. And we talk, and I made sure to, tell him then. I was like, man, I feel like you loved it. Did you love it? And he said, oh, I loved it. And, and I think that, not that I want to speak for him, but I think that already easily is one of his favorites that he's had, at least I'm sure within the last a couple of years. But yeah, he's for anyone wondering, Eddie Kingston's currently in a good place. He's a happy man right now, and he is enjoying his time there. So that's always really great.
Yeah, I just thought it was it's just it was a great, not not only, you know, because of, you know, our relationship with Eddie Kingston and history with Eddie Kingston, but even if you don't know Eddie Kingston on any sort of personal level, you know, it is a great story to see, you know, him in that spot. And, you know, standing toe to toe with a guy that has main evented WrestleMania before, you know, like that is, you know, it's a great story, and it's one of those. That is what makes wrestling great, is when it is not. And you know, I don't want to go on any sort of rant and you know, offend anybody, or you know, I know everyone has differing opinions, but that is what's great about, you know, pro wrestling writing itself as opposed to writing pro wrestling. Is, you know, Eddie Kingston needed to live that life for it to matter, you know what I mean? He needed those real life, you know, 20 plus years struggling on the independents for that to mean something. And it is just one of those stories that writes itself. That I thought was great. And maybe, you know, maybe not even that many people are seeing it that way, but for me, I saw it that way, and I just thought it was just, you know, that is a perfect example of when pro wrestling can be great. I mean, there it is.
Yeah, well said. And you know, you reminded me of one final shout out that I have to throw out there. The cough gave it away, but shout out Justin Summers. Justin Summers tying the knot over the weekend. So he is a married man.
Liz and Randy.
Sorry, ladies, he's off the market. No.
Match made in heaven, match made in hell.
Yeah.
I got a shout out.
All right, go ahead.
Shout out to Hornswoggle, who I haven't talked to in a while. Gave me a little afternoon FaceTime call today. He seems to be doing well, adjusting well. You know, he had a surgery a few months ago at this point, so. You know, he hasn't alluded to if he's going to do a comeback or not yet, but you know, he's you know what he's doing. He's working on a comedy set. He's doing a stand-up comedy show coming up, and he's trying to develop new material because he hasn't done one in forever.
It's been a long time.
So, he's giving that a shot again. So he was telling me about all that, and you know, he's starting to, you know, ramp up things for his promotion in Wisconsin. So, you know, that's, you know, shout out to Swoggle.
Yeah, that's very exciting stuff. Good for him. Always good when you can find something else going on and just make it work. Take a bad situation and make it good. You know, he's someone, though, I think, where, I mean, you can comment on this. Folks in the Discord have asked us about, well, during this time off because of injury, could you see Mance or Danhausen? Could they come in just so they could sell merch? Would that help them financially? And we know we've talked about in there, like, does it really help them financially? Does it? What are these benefits? What are the costs and all that stuff? Hornswoggle maybe is a guy who I could see once in a while, just even if he decides he can't work anymore, just popping in for the sake of popping in.
Oh my God, he kept trying to get me to add him to Hell on Earth. I'm like, I'm not adding you to Hell on Earth. You can't do anything. He's like, come on, just buy me a flight, you know. And then he's got to go to WrestleCade the next day. He was giving me this whole pitch, and I was like, you can't even wrestle. Like, Appleton, Wisconsin is an expensive flight, brother. There's no directs. But yeah, I don't know. You know, we're gonna reassess things. You know, but he's feeling good. He's been, you know, riding a bicycle a lot. So shout out to Swoggle. And for those that listen to this podcast that are active in the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Facebook group, as you all know, he's very active in that Facebook group. So he's doing well. So shout out to Swoggle.
All right, we good on your shout outs?
Yeah, I have another shout out, but I'm going to save it because it's a big AIW return I locked down for December 18th. So we'll leave it as a cliffhanger.
All right, a cliffhanger till next week or the end of the episode?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get into this. I don't know what we're going to talk about really, but that's the beauty of this show. We don't always know.
Freestyle.
Well, let's talk about this because we talked about Mance and Danhausen. And I thought the question was valid that was brought up in the Discord and is an interesting thing about when guys do have injuries. And, today's day and age is a little bit easier for them. It's a little bit easier. It's never, this is going to all sound terrible. There's no great way to word all this. It's never a good time to have an injury, right? But do you think that the times aren't quite as tough now if you go down with an injury as opposed to, 5-10 years ago because of social media, Patreon, things like that? I mean, it's certainly, of course, it's dependent upon who you are. Like Danhausen does all sorts of interacting stuff.
I mean, there's certainly way more outlets for wrestlers to make money now than ever. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, someone like Danhausen or Mance, like, are they going to want to travel X amount of hours either by plane or drive themselves to sell T-shirts when they have all of these avenues in which they could sell T-shirts from their home or from a third party website? There's so many third party websites that like Pro Wrestling Tees, and I know Mance is on another one that I can't think of off the top of my head, and there's Patreon, there's people just do donations and all these other things. There's just there's a lot of avenues for people to make money, and there are a lot of generous fans, and the flip side of that, I think it really depends on your notoriety, right? Like we saw for Go for Broke, we tried to do that model, and there not a lot of guys received, the fan sponsor or fan, support throughout Go for Broke. So, you know what I mean? I think a lot of it really depends on location and your kind of position within the industry. So guys like Danhausen and Mance, I think, certainly have the reach to, hopefully fans can support them and help supplement. Like, will they hit what they were making? Highly doubtful. These are two of the top guys on the circuit available, but I think that they certainly, have the resources to make some money. Now, somebody else like, I'm trying to think of somebody that wouldn't be as fortunate and is injured, because those guys are kind of in, they're in kind of a different category, right? Like,
sure, they're like at a different bracket or different tier, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Right. So it's hard to kind of make that generalization. Like, it's easier for everybody. You know what I mean? It's just because everybody is a different situation, so to speak. Like Danhausen is one that I feel like, yeah, he's going to be okay. I mean, he knows how to utilize all of his everything. But like Riley Rose, for example, like I don't know how much fan support he's received while he's been out injured. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
yeah. Great example. Yeah. Yeah.
Now he has access to all of those things, but he does not have the notoriety. So it's tougher for people like him that get injured. There's not a lot of supplemental income coming in. While he's on the shelf for since July. Yeah.
Well, and I guess the danger in this now, for lack of better terms, but the like quote unquote news cycle, right? And social media, everything moves so much quicker now that while there is this opportunity for guys to make money, we also have access, fans have access, promotions have access to discovering so many more people so much quicker now. And so it is a tough spot, because now Danhausen is extremely unique, as is Mance. That's a testament to everything that they've been doing. But it's one of those things where there is that risk of will they forget you in 2 weeks?
I mean,
let alone
I always say like a month in wrestling. Like I tell the students this a lot. A month in wrestling is like a year in like a real person's life. Because like. Mm-hmm. The news cycle happens so much. There's so many shows. There's so many, and that's what I tell a lot of them, don't be concerned about that one big gif, that one big move or that one big spot. Because by tomorrow, there's going to be 15, 20, 30, 50, 60 more shows. And, you multiply that by what, 7 to 10 matches each. Mm-hmm. Look at, we're recording this on Tuesday. I mean, you're not even seeing gifs of like this exploding ring really anymore, which is a spectacle. Like Matt Tremont gets caught on fire. He's in the hospital. He's caught on fire, and you don't see that many people talking about it. And we're 2 days later, like that's just how quick, and that's no disrespect to what they did. It's just, that's how quick news goes,
Yeah.
And then, you're mixing in AEW news and WWE news and all this other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, great points. And again, that's a testament to a guy like Danhausen, who has cultivated this personality that it's hard to forget, and he's going to be able to continue to do things. I mean, he does stuff. He doesn't even need to have a wrestling match, and everybody can talk about what Danhausen's doing. So he should be okay, like you said. But he also has cultivated this unique thing where now if somebody else started to do it while he's on the shelf for X amount of time, you immediately would point to that person and be like, all right, you're just trying to be Danhausen. You're not Danhausen. So, there's an advantage for him there, which again speaks to the brilliance of everything that he's been doing with them. Those just thoughts that I had. Just interesting to gain your perspective. A guy that's been around pro wrestling for.
It is certainly a different time. You know what I mean? Like it is. It's such a different time. But I mean, the news cycle is a thing that is rarely discussed. Is these guys are going to have to continue to remind everybody like, hey, I'm hurt. Please support. And that's tough too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's get into some of these Discord questions. I'm going to go to some that are rather relevant as we are here right now, because we've already talked about Hell on Earth and what's going on with that a little bit. And Reese wanted to know what's...
I do have some answers, though, from last week. There will be a bar available during the event. I know that was a concern. And they did say that you cover that. We would be able to sell some concessions. So, fingers crossed, Smoking Jays is showing up. And I think that those were really the only two big things.
There you go.
I know the alcohol was a big one.
Those were. This is a general Hell on Earth questioning. What will we expect from a Hell on Earth venue in Eastlake? Which we just talked about there. So we've kind of given you guys the heads up. We've talked about seating. John covered that. First few rows, premium seating sold out. We're going to try to get more chairs. Those will be general admission. So that's what you can anticipate. It sounds like at this moment you can probably anticipate standing room. You're welcome to bring seating. And you'll have a bar. You'll have Smoking Jays. All of that is what you can do. But Reese wants to know if, with traditionally the Odeon having Black Friday shows, are we utilizing Hell on Earth to kind of indirectly test the waters of other venues and markets to promote shows in?
Yes and no. It's really it's really about spacing, right? Like it's really hard to find a big space in Cleveland. So I started sending out cold emails during the height of the pandemic last summer, because they kept kind of moving the goalpost on like things reopening. So at a certain point, we figured at the very least, like Hell on Earth will probably happen, and we'll need a big space. So I started hitting up all these places. I did contact the Brook Park Rec Center initially, and they weren't doing rentals, but also the whole thing that happened with the paying the police officers cash and all that stuff, like kind of like in the moment, like that kind of sat bad with me. I just wasn't a fan of that. Like if they would be willing to kind of drop that, I would certainly negotiate to go back. But like I was looking for something with big space. So this place, a lot of these places don't even get back to you. You know what I mean? Like they aren't, I talk about that, and there's a lot of people that, don't understand it, but a lot of these places kind of frown on pro wrestling, right? Like I know that you've certainly encountered it with, trying to even deal with after parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it's tough to even find a place that will entertain the idea, and for sports, they were interested, and I think it was because we were in the height of the pandemic when they were initially interested. They were interested in doing it last year, in which they were going to allow us to do it last year, even, when we were unsure of what the rules and regulations were. But I decided that, let's hold off, because really, obviously optics, were a big factor. We didn't want to come out of the gate, you know what I mean? And
right.
And do all this stuff, and we wanted to really, as it's been well documented, do things as right as possible. So I opted, I pulled out of the agreement last year, and they said it's fine, but please consider us, if next year if things loosen up with the pandemic. And so I went, I ended up, reaching out to them again. We reached out to several other, venues, obviously, to no avail. And I decided, like, probably in the summertime, I think I locked this place down officially, because, you don't want to get into August and September and then you're trying to find this venue for Black Friday. So, I pulled the trigger on it. So what to expect is it is gigantic. It is bigger than the Brook Park Rec Center. So no matter what we draw, it's probably going to look bad, because it is just so much space. It's like an airplane bunker almost. It's just like a gigantic sports facility. Like it's huge. So there's going to be tons of space. So really, that's what you can expect is, a lot of room to kind of spread out. And, hopefully we can pack it. Obviously, we're probably going to have to figure out how to cut the room off and make a locker room, and kind of similar to what we did in Brook Park. But, other than that, and I think, we all will probably have to go out there and do a little walkthrough, but, it's going to be a big wide open space, honestly.
One of the other questions here, going with Double J being booked, I suppose the thought is that maybe we're working these deals through Conrad and those shows, but so any chance of anybody else involved those kinds of things, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Anderson Bischoff, Kurt Angle, any of these guys coming in to AIW. I mean, I can at least answer for you and say that this has nothing to do with all of those. This has to do with
there's no...
We once had Double J here.
Right, there's no kind of crossover because of that, but obviously all those guys are considered, right? I mean, they're all, legends that will appeal. And, I know we've talked about this with, the Matt Cardona stuff and, other people that we've booked in the past is we're always trying to draw in the outside fan some way or another, like, so you really gotta look and see, who do you think would do that? Like, obviously all of those names do that, right? That were just mentioned, or else they wouldn't have these hugely successful podcasts. I mean, they all have audiences. But no, Conrad didn't have anything to do with this deal. But I'm looking at it from moneyballing things. Like, okay, we have Matt Cardona, and he has that avenue of bringing eyes to AIW. Now, Jeff Jarrett is going to bring his set of eyes to AIW. His podcast, socials are already promoting the event. And it was put up, a half hour ago. So, I'm just kind of looking at it from marketing and reach for AIW. I keep saying it. I want to get back to that 2019 form. So, I'm doing things that I think are going to do it. And, I'm taking some financial risks, obviously. We have 4 pretty big attractions announced so far for 11/26, and that doesn't even count any of the matches. Mm-hmm. And that is, it takes money to make money, right? So, I'm throwing down, and I'm hoping that it pays off. We've had varying levels of support since we've come back, and now it's not fucking around time. Like, it's time to go. So, talk about it or be about it, right? Like, that's right. Let's be about it.
Moron in terms of not moron, but additional different venues. And we have talked about this in the Discord, and we've talked about it here. You, Dom, have been really working to put together a 2022 schedule, just so that we can have things locked down and try to, like you just said, finish talking about it and starting to be about it, and we can really start to put plans in place. And it's easier to do when you've got an entire schedule laid out. So, one of the questions is, with this schedule, are we going to try to strictly be Cleveland-based, or because of some of the success, and this also has to do with a post you put up on Facebook today asking people about returning to Akron, would you consider a 50-50 split between Cleveland and Akron?
I don't know about 50-50, but I definitely more. And definitely there's discussions about moving the marquee events to the Tadmor Shrine in 2022. We're talking, Gauntlet returning, maybe Absolution, maybe the Rap Show. We have some dates. We have some dates locked down. Well, I getting a lot of we have dates that we've requested in Akron, right? And we have dates that we've requested at the Odeon, and we also have dates that are confirmed at the Winchester. So, right now, we're working with those 3 base venues that we have relationships with. I certainly want to do more in Akron. I certainly think maybe trying some of the marquee events in Akron could help build it up as well. We're always going to be Cleveland based no matter what. That's just that's where we're at. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of the
Yeah.
guys are from. But there's a lot of potential in Akron as well. And maybe beyond in 2022. I don't know. You know, I don't really want to travel all that much, but I'm willing to travel, you know, to different places in Ohio. You know, there's been talks of going to Columbus in 2022, as well as returning to Youngstown, which we haven't done since, like, I don't know, probably like 2007. So there's a lot of balls, you know, in different courts, so to speak. But I don't know about splitting, but definitely I want to add more, and I want to kind of throw some gasoline on the fire as far as Akron is concerned, and the Winchester for that matter. You know, there's a lot of potential to do different things at the Winchester in 2022, and, you know, get our guys reps in that don't get a lot of reps in. You know, we have so many people coming out of the school, and so many people that have done these new talent initiatives, and there's just not enough space on the shows to feature them. But there is a kind of a plan to, you know, I don't want to say developmental because that makes it sound less than, but there is a plan to utilize the Winchester to showcase, you know, different talents going forward, and, you know, give people those opportunities to develop, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen. You know, there's a wild free agent market right now, and I know people are going to want to see some of those people on the AIW, and when you book them, that's, you know, one less spot for somebody else, you know, somebody, you know, locally. So, you know, I'm doing my best to try to balance and, you know, bring different talents in, as well as give, you know, our guys and girls from the school more reps in front of fans as well. And I think the Winchester is the best place to do that.
Yeah, you brought up the free agent market. We'll get to that in a minute, because I think I kind of want to end this whole thing, because it's going to take a big chunk of, I'm sure, what we talk about. But Stacy Silvers dropped in a question here in the Discord. I want to ask real quick. Based on the Suzuki run that just took place in the U.S., is there any Japanese talent you'd be interested in if they did something similar? And also, he was wondering if we had any sort of update on Kikutaro.
Yeah, you know, it's always that like when you see that stuff, it's kind of like, you know, you get FOMO, right? Like, you want to get in on it. And, you know, I was trying to get in on it, and I'm trying to make those inroads with, you know, the New Japan office, or, you know, and trying to get, you know, on that list of promotions that is, you know, available when they do these extended excursions. So I am interested, but I do think it really depends on the talent that's available, you know, in the price, and there's a lot of factors. I mean, obviously, you know, you would want, like, we tried for Suzuki. It just didn't map out with our schedule. So, you know, it just depends on who's available, and you know, that's kind of like a, you know, that's a hard question to directly answer. You know, I can't say that there's any one specific, because you don't know. You don't know who's going to be available and who's going to be over here for whatever reason. So, yeah, I mean, the short, vague answer is yes, absolutely interested. As far as Kikutaro, I have not really heard from him. I'm pretty sure that he lost his visa, so I think he was deported. I don't know that much about it. You know, I had his American phone number, which I got nowhere with when I tried to reach out when all that was going on. So I'm not sure, you know, but he was very valuable in helping the the translation of all that stuff when, dealing with different offices and different talents and things like that. So, and I'm not just specifically interested in New Japan. You know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of, great talent in Japan. But it has to make sense.
All right. So we brought up you mentioned free agents, and free agent market. And it has been in the news, is talk about Ring of Honor and letting people go, letting contracts expire, a little bit more than just expire. If folks who have caught up on the news, most of it is basically a lot of talent is free at the end of the year, but there are some people whose contracts extend for another few months, and they'll be good to go afterwards, but immediately everybody can start working any independence. There's no exclusive deal any longer for folks. So I guess everybody appreciates your thoughts on these things, John Thorne. Any thought about what has happened and transpired there?
It was inevitable that, I think, and I know that that's not a popular answer, but AEW drastically has shifted the marketplace, in the last 2 to 3 years, to where Ring of Honor was paying some very high salaries and some really healthy salaries to a lot of people. And there's a lot of, Twitter had lots of opinions on it, but, when was the last time that you spent money on Ring of Honor? I think that is the big, that's the big question that needs to be answered for everybody that was upset. It's, they're owned by this gigantic, corporation, but, from what I understand, that corporation made some poor decisions. And when they start, looking at the books, there's probably millions of dollars that are being, spent on Ring of Honor. I'm not putting some of these numbers out there, but there are some very healthy contracts that I'm aware of that they were making.
One thing that's interesting in terms of the finances, and this is pure speculation, I'm going to throw this out there, but for all this talk, when AEW was first coming about and people saying, oh, WWE should be threatened by them and this and that, did Ring of Honor jump the gun at that point in time? And it almost feels like they felt threatened and were throwing around money that they didn't necessarily have because they didn't want to lose people.
They had it. Okay. Like, I'll say that. They had it at that time. Let's not forget they did sell out Madison Square Garden or come close. But when the elite left, obviously a lot of fanfare left with them. But Ring of Honor, I was always told, was kind of like filler content for all their stations, right? Like all the Sinclair stations. Like, it was cheaper to spend X amount on Ring of Honor than it was to, buy syndication rights to fill time, for, buy like Seinfeld syndication or something. That is the way that I understood Ring of Honor's business model, essentially, right? But we forget that kind of the NXT, everyone just focuses on the NXT AEW Wednesday Night War, but really NXT started their shift in business model to compete with Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor was, they had a lot of hype when they had, the Young Bucks and Cody and, several others, and, they're selling out, the Hammerstein Ballroom and booking Madison Square Garden. And, a lot of that really started as NXT or WWE versus Ring of Honor. So Ring of Honor was throwing around money to try to keep people. And then when AEW started up, they were still trying to, keep talent, and obviously, when AEW is there, that's a third offer essentially on the table, for a lot of these talents. So, a lot of people did remain loyal to Ring of Honor and stayed there, and they probably got paid very well. But, yeah, I mean, it was bound to happen, I think, and I'm sure they say that they're going to come back, and there's been a lot of like misrepresented reporting going on, like the tape library is not for sale, all that stuff was debunked. I think they're just kind of reevaluating, and probably much like what WWE is doing, like WWE's cutting a lot of people, getting a lot of money off the books probably, and then seeing what happens when the dust settles. Now, not all of these free agents are going to land somewhere. So, much like any sport, right? Like when there's a massive, free agent market, it's, not everybody gets the big offer. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of, let's kind of let them, let people play the market and see what happens. And maybe people will still be available, when we can come around, with an offer that makes more sense for where we're at financially. That's my speculation. I have no other, inside knowledge to any of it, but that is my speculation on what WWE and Ring of Honor is doing, is just cutting money off the books and then hoping some people are still available for less money. I mean, it sounds dirty or whatever, but that's business. Like these are businesses.
Yeah, it sounds dirty, but also to their credit, I think one way that you can look at it is that, they sat around and paid a lot of people when things were shut down.
Both companies did. I mean, both companies paid.
But I think about somebody like Session Moth, right? They signed her to a deal, and suddenly, like, you can't even get her over here. But they continue to pay her. She's on record saying that, and she's just one example. This has happened to a lot of people, and Ring of Honor makes it sound like, I don't know, maybe they can't continue. Like your point, they can't just continuously shell out all this money without making all the money back, and a quick way to do it is to see who gets taken up, see what you're left with. But I also think that is it's a service to those people. Like it's a positive thing, because all right, we've sat here, these people are in contracts, we kept paying them, they couldn't go anywhere, but we also couldn't use them. But hey, now you could potentially go make tons of money. So we're not holding you back from that anymore. Go get paid more money if you can get paid more
I just
money.
think that there is AEW shifted the marketplace, and like everybody, even independents, we all have to reevaluate how we do business now, and who is going to be available. And, there's all these different things that are even changing for us, right? So naturally that's going to change when there are, millions of dollars at stake too. And there's this, driving new force, that's a major player, those companies are going to have to adjust to, and there's going to be a shift, and things are going to get shooken up a little bit. And I think that's just, we're seeing that now, and maybe it would have happened faster if the pandemic didn't happen. But it's tough, it's a tough situation, but you'll see a lot of people land on their feet, and some people won't, and
yeah,
I mean, that sucks to say, but that's just how it is, that it's not, everybody can't win, everybody can't make a ton of money. That's just not how it goes, like, I've been involved in wrestling for like 20 years. I ain't making no fucking money. Like that's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. Like that's the way it shakes out. But I think if there's the people that you're a fan of, if you're a fan of anybody, like those people are probably going to land on their feet.
It's not asked in the Discord, but I know it's coming. Anybody from this Ring of Honor release or ending of exclusive contracts that you've got your eyes on that it would be nice to bring to AIW or maybe bring back to AIW?
I mean, we'll see. I haven't really talked to anybody. Obviously, PCO kind of got a jump on everybody by taking dates sooner than all this. But I don't know. Like that's another thing. It's like, where are these fees going to be at? There's a lot of that going on. Like I can say from reaching out to recent NXT releases, like some of the fees and the expectations of talents are very unrealistic if they think that they're going to work every single weekend and maintain a career.
Yeah.
Some of the responses I've gotten, I am downright offended by, honestly. And I'll just leave it at that. I have not really spoken to anybody from, the Ring of Honor end of things. I spoke to Session Moth briefly, and just said, if she books some sort of American loop, to let me know. And that's really it. I've reached out to some people and no reply as of yet. But there's not a lot of people coming out of Ring of Honor that I'm super interested in, to be honest. Obviously, Hot Sauce if he's available. And I spoke to Flamita briefly. But other than that, I mean, I don't really know. Maybe it would be cool to bring Bandito or Roosh to Cleveland, but who knows? Those guys are going to be highly sought after. Those are the guys that are going to land somewhere first, I'm sure.
Sure.
So you never know. I mean, it's we're open for business, but it all depends. There's a lot of things you got to compete with at this level too, there's a lot of independents that are back up and running, GCW, it seems like they have a show every fucking day. So, there's you have to compete with that. And then all of the other kind of anchor independents, in every city, America, there's a lot of competition right now, to get some of these guys on dates.
Sure. All right, let's end this with a couple of fun questions that were thrown in there. Any interest in AIW trading cards?
Yeah, Dominic Guarini was supposed to look into this about a year and a half ago. I'm still waiting for an answer. Somebody reached out to us to do a licensing thing, but yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? And obviously, there's a lot of red tape there. You have to kind of get the rights from the photographer and the talent and all this other stuff. And, how much could you really charge for, a pack of cards? So
right,
it's
right.
I don't know. I would love to have them. But I don't know. I don't know how to make them myself. And, so if anybody does that listens and you want to work something out, let me know. But, I would certainly like them, All
right. Who would AIW have to book for us to run the CSU, formerly Convocation Center, the Wolstein Center? I think that's a good one.
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan. I mean, I don't know.
That place seats, I think,
Hulk
10,000?
Hogan couldn't even. I mean, when Hulk Hogan was TNA, you couldn't even sell that out. I mean, I don't know who could sell that out. AEW didn't sell that out.
AEW did not sell it out. No, yeah. That was early on when they were starting off. Maybe they sell it out now, but they certainly did not sell it out immediately then. So, yeah, it's a great question.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't even think we could sell out the Nautica Pavilion.
I was gonna say we constantly think about that. Who do we need for that? So, things to ponder, goals to shoot for.
I mean, we need, not trying to complain, but we need a more consistent fan base, right? Like to justify growth, right? So like we can't, we got to sell the Odeon out before we can, sell out the Nautica Pavilion, like
yeah,
and then the Swolstein Center is even bigger than that. I looked into the Canton Civic Center because that's a little smaller. But man, like these places cost so much money. Like it's insane. Because the one guy, he set us up with when Rhett Titus was around, JSWO. He said to reach out to the Canton Civic Center because they've hosted indies there a bunch of times, especially in the early 2000s. And man, when they hit me with all those terms and conditions and the money involved, I was like, whoa, like we were definitely in nice used car range. I'll say that. It was shocking. So I don't know how any of those independents ever ran there. I mean, maybe used to be way cheaper, but yeah, it was no joke. And a lot of these places are union, and you have to pay all of those union fees, and it adds up real quick.
All right, last question. I think I've given it enough time, but have you confirmed the AIW return booking for December?
What do you mean? Oh yeah, it's confirmed.
It's confirmed. Well, more on that next time, folks.
I'm not going to say it yet, though.
All right.
It's more impactful when you just hit the graphic out there.
Okay, you guys are going to have to stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Date is December 18th, though. Mark your calendars. Wu-Tang Clan's the night before. Make it a weekend.
Wu-Tang Clan, will they be at the Odeon?
They're at the Agora.
Wow, yeah, too big for the Odeon. Much too. Need a little bit more people there. What a sweet weekend in Cleveland, though. All right, we'll wrap it up. I'm just going to say this. Ed Battis is trying to be a bully and pick on somebody in the Discord. Not cool.
Be a star, Ed. Be a star.
Yeah. I threatened to smash your camera the next time I see it, Ed, but you don't bring it to the shows anymore.
Well, he's protesting.
I know. I was just being a bully to his being a bully.
You guys are... People get so contentious in that Discord, man.
They do. They really do. They really do.
Text is very... I think you can't... I think the problem is like you can't detect sarcasm in when you're reading, So like everything is interpreted differently. And man, it gets contentious in there.
It does. And then sometimes people think that something is sarcastic and somebody's just trying to genuinely get an answer. Like, no, just curious. Like, come on.
I'll say this. I am getting ready to revamp the Patreon a little bit. I have some content that will be dropping on there. I know that it's been lacking. We've said it a million times. But I have stuff. It's going up this month. I have multiple podcasts. I have new AIW Academy presentation skills. We have the 4 North Canton festival shows that myself and Wadsworth are going to drop some commentary tracks on. So a lot of stuff coming to Patreon. I am going to probably revamp the tiers a little bit because some stuff is just it's too hard to keep up with, so that is on the docket. We probably have to have a little brainstorm session with various artists maybe this week to kind of locked down, a plan with the Patreon, but hey, I see the numbers going down, so it's time for me to buckle down and get serious with it and get some things back rolling and creating content again. So yep, that's a big thing. So subscribe to the Patreon this month. You will be seeing a decent amount of content coming.
Sounds like somebody needs to buy 5 bottles of champagne at a Winchester brunch again, huh? Get those brain cells flowing for everybody. Get the brains going.
Maybe a little Friday night out. I don't know. Thursday night. Thirsty Thursday.
Stay tuned, folks. And stay tuned on the lookout. Listen, we dropped it. There's a big AIW return coming December 18th. On top of everything that's happening on Hell on Earth, you still don't even know the card for Hell on Earth yet. So if you want to know all of that, make sure you follow at AI Wrestling on all of the social media. John Thorne, anything else?
Buy those Hell on Earth tickets. They're flying actually tonight.
Yeah.
After this Jeff Jarrett announcement.
There you go.
Just got a $130 order.
Nice. There you go.
Shout out to Teresa for that big order.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. So buy those tickets up, and I'll see some of you this weekend, potentially Sunday at McFoley at Hilarities. And, if you want some laughs, buy some tickets to the Cleveland Comedy Festival next week, including Dolph Ziggler, November 13th. We might be adding somebody to that show. I might be able to say that on Wednesday. So, big thing there. But all sorts of other fun tickets. That's November 10th to the 13th at the Odeon, and smaller space right next to the Odeon. ClevelandComedyFestival.com. For AIW owner John Thorne, my name's Steve Guy. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Card is Going to Change.